All right, guys, just give me a second to waiting on our guest to join in on the show today. Okay. Okay, guys, we were waiting for our guest to join in on the live, and he's here, Radio Apprentice. Can you just join in or request to join the live because my invitation seemed not to be working with you, if that's okay, right? Got messages coming in. Okay. Okay. And Williams, if you can hear me, please just send an invite to join this live and I would accept. Because my invitation, I'm sending to you, and I don't know if you can see it, but the notification I get on this end says you're unable to join. So, okay, I've seen it. Just a second. Set. Yep. Okay. Hi. Finally, we can connect. How you
Hello.
doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm okay. Don't mind the network and the whole connection tech thing. They just almost wanted to spoil our day, but it's not going to happen. Okay, another episode of Pod Breaks Africa, and this hosted at APVA, and I am your beautiful, gorgeous host, Guinevere. And yeah, you can call me Guinevere Jones or Gwen, whichever one rocks your boat. And we have a wonderful guest in the house. You can already see him. Yes, with a big headset. Why are you doing like me? Why are you carrying my headset too? Like, why? I didn't mean you should. I was kidding. Okay. Yeah, guys. So Pod Breaks Africa is all about the sweet and sour bits of passion, and we're here to explore Nwilliams' sweet and sour bits of his passion, and it's all about podcasting and radio. Yes, he's a broadcaster and a radio person, and he has been in the field since 2012. He's a veteran in this podcasting field. He's a veteran in broadcasting, and he's a veteran in content compilation. And we can't wait to have him on board with all of his wisdom and experience. So let's just hear a little bit about him from me first, okay? What I know about Nwilliams, right? let's see. He started podcasting in 2012 when none of us were even into podcasting. This guy was already in there. I don't know what you're looking for by that time, but he went into it because of the passion of talking. I think so. You like talking? And then he has a lot of experience, okay, from he has a channel actually. He hosts an intimacy channel called 18, right? So I'm guessing from 18 and above. You guys
Yeah.
discuss a lot of, yeah, okay. And he's a dedicated writer, and he loves the sound of fiction. And but he enjoys poetry even more. So I think off the bat, he's going to give us and drop us some lines. Do you understand? So yeah. And apart from that, he is an OAP, a good DJ because he started doing DJ since 2013. So he's like a man with so many caps, and he wears them as each occasion arises. So he has lots and lots of experience to share with us. Okay, so thank you guys for joining in on the show today. So that's the little bit we have of Nwilliams. He's a podcaster, he's an OAP, and also he's a DJ. And things he loves about the passion is about him being into poetry, and he hosts a local show called Local Radio Station, and also a host of Intimate Time from 18 and above. They discuss so many intimate um, bits. So, okay, I don't know. I think we've lost him again. The network seems to be shaking at his end, but our guest will join us back shortly. But yeah, let's say hi to our guest. I have Ogioge. Did I get that right? Thanks for joining. I have APVA. Thank you for joining on the show. I have the Fluke podcast. Thank you for joining on the show. And yes, I'm waving to all of you. Thank you for joining. So while we wait for our guests to reconnect with us, let's just talk a little bit about what it is to be a podcaster and the sweet and sour side from my perspective and from working as a community member in the APVA community channel. So this is the first thing I would like to say, and which our guest will dive more into when he comes back on to join us. Okay, so the first thing first, the similarities between podcasting and radio, it's slim, I must confess. And since we have a guest that is actually having to do both, I'm sure we'll have to learn a lot from his portfolio as well. And then we also have lots of comments here, and it's beautiful. Okay, we have a comment here from one of our guests. Yeah. Okay. Well, a lot of people want to find out or to know more about the similarities between radio, broadcasting radio, and podcasting, the difference between both or the similarities between both. Okay, so okay, so Nwilliams, we are waiting on you because a lot of questions are actually piling up for you all right here, and I can't wait. Okay. Okay, he just sent a message that his network is having some issues. We'll apologize about that, but he will be back on shortly. Okay, so while we wait, we are having questions on WhatsApp from people who are watching the show, and they want to know the difference. Someone said the difference between podcasting and radio broadcasting. That's what he wrote. And Lillian, you are saying that why is he merging both? Is it not difficult or strenuous? Okay. Nwilliams to join us shortly because he's having network issues. But for me, in the end, he's a person that likes talking. So I won't really think it's going to be very difficult for him to do both. And also the timing. I think the major difference between podcasting and radio, it's that the different interface that he uses. Actually, I've actually seen podcasters who have become an online radio, like they metamorphosed into that because the difference is really slim, very slim. So we have that more in time. So while we wait for our guest, just going to post myself here and see how best I can help him join back in. Thank you. Okay, so you have questions piling up for you already on our WhatsApp channels and group, and
Okay.
your network don't want you to shine this evening. I don't understand. Okay, so the first question of the bat is tell us where you're from. What part of Africa are you from?
Okay, I'm from River State. You can hear me, yeah?
Definitely, I can.
Okay, I'm from River State, Port Harcourt local government particularly.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so what is the full meaning of CS?
Chima Obi Stanley.
So your full name is Chima Obi Stanley
Yeah.
Nwilliams. Okay,
Williams.
so
My N is silent.
okay, Williams. Okay. So first of all, the first question I have here from Lillian, she is asking you, isn't merging podcasting and radio broadcasting together difficult? Like, why are you merging both together? So, what do you have to say?
I didn't get the question again. Sorry, you were breaking at the time.
Yeah, because so your live was buffering. Lillian wants to know why you're merging radio and podcasting together.
Where
And
I'm
she assumes it's a difficult task.
why I'm merging what and what again? Sorry.
Podcasting and
And
radio as an OAP doing the radio shows,
okay.
broadcasting on the radio. She wants to know why are you merging both together? Because from her, she thinks it's a difficult thing to do. So what do you have to say to her, to Lillian?
Well, I think they're both the same thing. As a matter of fact, I feel like podcasting creates avenue for more creativity than the usual radio talk. Yeah,
Oh, really?
yeah, it
Okay,
does.
so I have Ebuka saying what's the difference between podcasting and radio broadcasting?
Well, there's basically no difference, especially if what you want to do is share and discuss. Okay, I would say that the difference between radio broadcasting and podcasting is the fact that podcasting helps you get detailed with stuff. Like your talk is always detailed, you plan your conversations. You don't just show up with anything hoping that somebody else is going to help you get out of it. Because radio thing is, as soon as you bring up a topic, people are there to help you out with it, ask questions, and have you respond. But then,
Calling.
yeah, calling and making it easy for you because at the end of the day, what you're doing is just to answer responses, beef out responses, and all of that. But when you're doing podcasting, you basically have to prepare for everything. It's just about you at this time. So you have to be sure that you alone can be entertaining. And that's why it's a little
Okay,
bit
so
dicey.
before we get more questions from there, thank you guys for joining. T Code, thank you so much for joining on the show. It's Pod Breaks Africa, and I'm your host, Guinevere. So before we go on to talk about the radio scene and the podcasting scene, let's talk about Williams, you as a podcaster slash OAP slash DJ slash a lot of hats. Yeah, so what was the first hat you picked up when you started? What did you start with a podcast, or did you start as an OAP in a radio show, as an apprentice in the radio, like your profile says? Did
Yeah,
you?
I started apprentice as a radio. I started radio. I used to go to radio stations earlier to do poetry.
Okay.
Like they invite me over, I do poetry, and then I leave. But one day I declined for some reason. I just declined the request.
Okay.
Way because after reading out the poetry, I don't have a record for it. I don't have a detail for it. I don't even know how many people listen to it. And so I started looking for ways to do it myself, like figure out how to go on with it. And then I discovered that I could actually own an online radio station. Yeah, then I was paying for a server to use, and that's how I started. So I literally started straight from going on air all on my own, talking to myself because, yeah, you just started, so there's nobody. You're seeing zero listeners, zero.
I can imagine.
Yeah, when I realized that okay, nobody's listening to me at this time, to build my confidence higher, I started recording my own shows. Okay, so when I'm done talking to myself, I record the show, and then I realized that okay, there's some.
Okay, I think we lost him there again. So sorry, guest. He's having a network challenge at the moment. So anytime he freezes, just chill. He'll come back, right?
Yeah, okay, I'm
So
back
you
on right
stopped at
now.
building
So
your
where was
confidence.
I?
You stopped at building your confidence to
Okay, yeah.
build your confidence.
Okay, so I was basically talking to myself, and you know what that means. Like you log on, and after sending messages to everybody, telling them, "Come and listen to me. I'm about to read poetry on air." Nobody's coming.
They all have
So
something else to do.
yeah, basically, I saw it like that. Like you don't really have to push them to want to like what you do at the time. I started recording myself. So when I started recording myself, I realized that okay, I could republish them later. And that was when I started reading
Hmm.
all about podcasts, and I realized that okay, podcasting is about recording and publishing. So now when I go on air, if I have one person listen that day, I'm happy. Maybe my mom, maybe my sister, you know. And then I have to now record it and republish it on the radio again, and then put it out. I had to create a website to now put it out there so that if you didn't listen to it then, you can either listen to it later again, or you can just go to the website and listen to it. And that's how I now start moving towards podcasting. I had to merge it because you go on air, you record your shows, and you upload them as a podcast.
Wow. So the first thing is your passion for letting your poetry go into live or come into live to reach out to more people drove
Yeah.
you to doing your own research and how to get it out there. And
Yeah.
that's how you started with the online radio thing.
Yes.
And it wasn't giving you the result that you wanted, so you had to change heart into podcasting, trying to
Yeah.
repeat and share with people and building websites. So all of those things, I think that's a side bits of your own passion, right? So how did you feel in those days when you had zero listeners? Because when I started this live video, there was no one coming in. And I was like, should I start singing to myself right now? Like just chilling with the with the big girls. And I'm a big girl, you know. Or should I wait for my guest? I can understand where you were at the time of zero listeners. I can understand that. But I want to know how you felt in those days where you were putting in those work. I'm sure your family don't even know what you're doing. Like they felt you're doing nonsense. As long as far as they're concerned, because it's going to take your time, take your money, and take your brain strength and your stamina. How did you go through those days? How did you feel? And what will be your message to someone right now who is at zero listeners in their shows or writing or wherever they are right now? So first of all, start with your emotions, then spread it across to how we can get better.
Okay. Talking about when I had zero listeners. Okay. I felt bad uh, because you have friends, you have family, you have people that you know, people you expect that should listen to you. I expect that when I send them a link and tell them I'm going on air, I expect everybody to be scrambling and checking, trying to find out. But it didn't work out like that, really. But then that's the reason why I had to diversify. That's the problem we have basically when things go this way is the fact that we don't think fast on how to make it bigger. So when I realized that I couldn't get people come to listen to me live, maybe they're busy at the time, maybe they're at work, like you said, maybe like my mom didn't know how to use an internet phone at that time, so I wouldn't blame her for not listening. Okay, a lot of people. But then I had to think about the other way to get it to them. However, but
Okay.
I really felt bad at first. I felt bad. I felt like stopping. I felt this wasn't my thing.
Sorry
Okay.
to interject. Someone is asking, did you cry? I think Lillian. She's asking you, did you cry in the days that you felt bad?
No, I didn't. I didn't cry.
So you
I
hit it
didn't
like a
cry.
man.
I didn't cry, really. Okay, do you know what happened? I stopped going on
Yeah.
air. I stopped going on air. When I realized I could upload music to the radio and leave it to run, I stopped going on air. So what I started doing was start practicing on how to record better.
Oh,
Because I felt
okay.
like maybe I wasn't saying things good. Maybe I wasn't really putting my lines properly. Maybe they're tired of poetry. I have to add something else to it. So I could record from probably 8 p.m. at night till like 4 a.m. in the morning, trying to get the perfection.
8 p.m. to 4 a.m. When do you sleep?
Yeah, that's the problem. Because every time you record and listen to yourself, you feel like you can do it better. Okay?
Yeah,
So you keep
definitely.
doing that. So I'm hungry, I run off, I pause, I run, go have food to eat, I get back. I want to take water, I run, take water, I get back. Oh, I've not had my bath, I run to take my bath, I get back. I kept doing that. And then I check my time. It's 3 a.m., it's 4 a.m., and then I want to sleep. Sometimes you're like, at that time, that is when you're supposed to do it better. So you end up
Yeah,
not sleeping at all. You end up not
pushing.
sleeping at all.
Wow.
I kept doing that, and so when I record, then I now put it on air. So when I record and put it on air, I tell people that I'm going on air, and that's not true. I already recorded it, so I would put it on air, and then I would go to do my business, and then I'll start monitoring who is listening and not. So what I was doing then was that when I upload it, I will now focus on my WhatsApp and every other place. I'll keep buzzing everybody. Oh yeah, I'm on air right now. I'll
That
go and
makes
listen.
sense.
I'm on air, and so if I had like two listeners, then I was happy, very happy.
Wow.
Even one listener gave me the whole of confidence. Like I'm talking to you now as a pally, so we're having a talk and all of that. And then I can remember one guy from Ireland. I think he stumbled upon the radio then, and he would leave the radio on forever. And every time I come on air, he would be the
He's
one
always
to
there.
he would go on Twitter and say, "I'm here."
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'll start talking, and he'll be asking questions, responding to my talk, and I'll be so that is how it really kept me going. But then, like I said, I did cry, but I felt pained. I felt really pained,
Okay.
but I had to think about the best way to get it out there rather than stopping because I thought about stopping. Really, I thought about just ending the whole garden thing since it's not really what I wanted to put up. But I still couldn't stop because I couldn't stop doing poetry and I couldn't stop declining invitations to radio stations, and so I had to do it myself.
That is one beautiful, challenging, painful sad bits of your passion. And we all can relate because most of us on this channel, we are all creatives, and it's a difficult thing to start something. But what's most difficult is keeping that thing you've started going. So some people will say it's easy to start, but staying on track is hard. But I think starting and maintaining both are difficult. One is way more difficult than the other, but both are
Yeah.
difficult. So um, based on what you've shared with us about migrating from online radio into podcasting, recording your show, the hours you spend, and trying to push family, friends, and everyone you know to listen in. the big question is, from your experience, do you think there should be an ultimate measure between the radio, the online radio, or the physical radio, or mean physical radio station, just to be clear, or merge with the podcasting? So, do you think podcast and radio broadcasting should be ultimately fused into one, than separate um, apart from each other? What do you think?
Well, currently now, 80% of my podcasts usually go from live podcasts before it goes to pre-recorded podcasts. So yeah, the merger is already happening with me. Okay,
Oh,
I don't refer to my shows online as a radio show. I refer to my show online as a live podcast session. So
okay.
this is not a recorded session of podcast. This is a live session which I can talk to you live, we interact live, live podcast. So if I'm doing a live podcast session, it's as well as doing a radio show. So I don't really separate the both of them. I just merge them. So if you missed out to listen to me live, you can always go to the podcast channels to listen to me later. But I prefer you to listen to me live so that we can have the interaction and connection. So the radio and podcast is already merged to me.
Okay, that's beautiful. So, what would you say to people who are okay saying, I want to have my own radio? So, how did you start with your online? How did you start your online radio? What are the steps? Because most people know how to start a podcast already. There are tutorials out there to help people out. But what about the online radio? Someone who wants more interaction, or someone who has gained more followers in podcasting, and now they want to hear real time, not after the show reactions from people, like in real time reactions from people, instead of adding to YouTube, and they're like, okay, why don't I have my own online radio? What's your advice to them? What are the steps to take in getting your own online radio?
Well, I think that getting an online radio right now and getting people to listen to you live is actually a big task. The only the only thing that is separating people right now is the distant time, the build up. Okay, ours have been running for long years now, so
Okay.
we literally get up to 6,000 and above listeners every day as a minimum. And yeah, it did just that. So asking you to go
Yeah,
on
it started
on an
2012 with zero listeners, and
yeah.
it pains you.
So asking anyone to go on an online radio station right now, unless it's a project you want to do, because it takes a while to gain those listeners there. It's okay. It takes a while, and you're not going to focus on local listeners because you're not going to get them as much as you want. Because we're always cautious about our data, but we forget that YouTube takes more data than the radio, than podcasts. Okay.
Yeah, the day I found out about that, I was shocked because I never knew that. Uh, I felt at least they should be at par with the data consumption because of the activities we also do as a podcaster. Well, when I realized that videos actually take more bandwidth than audio, and I was shocked to realize that because I don't know anything about tech. I am a baby. I have no idea. But when I realized that, I was like, okay, I respected my data for lasting longer than it should. I never get angry again when the notification comes. Sorry, you have zero data. I'm not like, these people are cheating me. I don't do that anymore. So yeah, go on.
So I have to research on that. Why did I research on how much data it takes to listen to radio or listen to podcasts? Everyone says, "Oh, please go and listen to my podcast." Someone will tell you, "Say it takes data." I'll say yes. They'll say to finish my data. Everyone kept saying that, and it wasn't really fair. And I had to go and research. I found out that you have to listen to a podcast for like an hour for you to consume a megabyte. So it's like an hour to a megabyte, an hour to a megabyte. But we are watching a video, no matter how poor the quality is, you spend over 3, 4, 5 megabytes in probably 20 minutes or 10 minutes, even more than that now, because the higher the video quality, the higher the data it consumes. So I have to put the stats out there just so that I can get people to consider listening to podcasts rather than just focus on the. I think the sentiment is more because it's audio, and so the energy to listen
There's
to
no
it is not.
excitement so much about it. There's
Yeah,
nothing visual to drive the attention. So yeah, it's like reading a book, but just using your ears.
yeah. So
That's
I also realized that from a survey that people rather just watch any video, whatsoever video, however it is, than listen to podcasts because they will just want to see, they just want to feed them their eyes. Some people just listen out of boredom. They just want to listen to watch something. So we had to introduce visual podcasts. So for most of the case, you just have to come up and give a total review of your podcast before you go audio so that when they see you talk about your podcast before you get started, they can get triggered to go and listen to it later. So these are all the
that's
strategies. These are all the strategies we had to put in place to drive people to go and listen to podcasts. Just show them your face. Tell them that you want to talk about ABCD today, and tell them that if they want to listen more, they should go to your channel and listen to you. So they've seen your face, and so they can now go over and listen to the podcast because you've said something before, probably for like a minute, and they're interested. And yeah, they're eager, and someone goes to listen. Just a way to drive them. More ways just to add
that is so
spices to the meal.
brilliant. That is brilliant, really, because the pain you felt when you had the zero listeners and you trying to beg people to listen to you and they were all conscious about your data and time, and that drove you into not just becoming a, another voice out there, but you had to sit down to strategize what you have to do to get ahead of the objections put up by people around you. Okay, so that is a brilliant step. So in summary, you're saying that don't go starting an online radio if you don't have the patience, the time, and the strategy to push that. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
if you cannot also afford the equipment that come up with it, because it comes with money, it comes with time, it comes with equipment.
what about personnel? Can one person man a radio all through, or you also need one or two, three people added to use to just keep it going
Well, with how far I've gone right now, I can man a radio.
all on your own?
I can man a radio all on my own.
Wow, that is incredible.
All we need to do is play different characters. I can play your character, I can play her character, I can play his character.
Oh wait, so you can actually do a show and people think that you're the host with two, three guests, but you're the only one doing you're the guests, the
Well, not really
the
that.
host, everybody.
Not really that. I can ask you if I want to have different shows right now. I can ask you if you were to go on air, what would you talk about? And you tell me what you would talk about. And I would ensure that I talk about it like you would talk about it.
Oh, so you get
Yeah.
into the people's shoes to talk about the issues that affect
Yeah.
them.
I have to
How
play.
how does that work?
Well, it works because I'm a poet and I write fiction. So it's always easy to create words and build it all there. Like if you read some of my poetry or listen to some of my poetry, you realize that some of them are not about me. So I have to be
Yeah,
you
about
right
people.
now. I have to be you right now to tell a story about you. I have to be you to write poetry about your pain, your happiness, your experience, and all. So sometimes when I put things out there, someone is asking me, "Bro, is everything okay with you?" I will just smile. I just played a different character right now, and I put it out there, and
Okay.
someone is thinking that I have a problem, or I'm just too happy, or something. So if that can happen, I always try to merge everything in between and play the character. So if we're to talk about medical stuff right now, I know I'm not a doctor. So what can I do? I have to create sarcasm around being a doctor. So I can play around with you, playing around with your drugs, playing around with Google and your medications, play around with, I'll just play with it because I'm not a doctor. So you're not going to believe me if I'm serious. But I've read about
Yes.
it. I've read the details about what I want to talk about. And so I have to start creating sarcasm around it. just for that. And if we talk about a lady being in problem, I have to create a story in my head and put it out there like a story. So you have to now come into it and be a part of it. So
That is an impressive fit that you have created for yourself, an impressive journey that you have started, and it's really beautiful, I must commend. And you didn't get here in one day. It took you years to get here. And that's where we are coming to. We are almost rounding up on the show, but let's talk about the sweetness of your passion. Because now you with a smile, you said you can have up to 6,000 people listening in on your show. How does that feel?
I feel good. It feels so good. It feels so good. But right now, they're basically international listeners. At least we only have 10% or thereabouts African, and that's really a problem. That's what we're trying to build. But every other one, and that's the reason why you have to speak in a certain way to entertain the others, because from their IPs, you know that they're all foreigners. Okay, but it's really nice to know that you're being listened to. Okay, it's been nice to know that you could actually share and someone is going to pay attention to it. Yeah, I feel good, really.
I'm glad it has come to the point where you're smiling to share the story, because when you were talking about your pain, your face actually is like you were reliving your memories again right here live with us. And that's a beautiful fit that you could share your emotions with us. So podcasting and radio has been into one for you, and now you're running with it and getting the fruits. But your focus for this year is what exactly? To expand your African audience. So how do you want to go about that?
My focus this year is not about me. It's not about me. It's about every young chap out there studying mass communication. It's not about me.
So you have a project to incorporate these things to
Yeah,
bring
have a
them
project. I have a project with Oral Vault. Okay,
out.
it's a podcasting company with a live radio. So the idea is to give young people and mass communication students the platform to build their own years of experience before they get into the field, since that's the criteria that comes up and knocks them off the pecking order. Because I tell everyone around me, and including the younger ones, I say, the radio house or whatever media house won't take you if you're coming to be a liability to them. But if you're able to build your audience and you're bringing people to them, they would appreciate you more, and so they're going to take you. You don't even need to. They don't need to ask you what your years of experience is anymore and all of that. As long as you have people listening to you and you're bringing people to their outfit, their station, their platform, they're good. They will take you. And so I felt that the main goal for the year is to take carry podcasting into the schools, the universities, the premium gist, the usual premium gist that everybody gets to talk about all the time over a bottle of champagne, over drinking Gary and granuts. You should just turn it into a podcast, okay? Let other people know what you're saying, hear you, and build an audience from it. So that by the time you're done with school, you already have a podcast channel that is flourishing. You already have your confidence built up. You know how to organize your content. You know how to interact with people. You know how to prolong your talk. So when you're approaching them to get a job, you're not coming as a liability to them anymore. You're coming as someone who's already built up and already made. Now, it's
That is
easier.
that is a wonderful fit.
Yeah, it's easier for people who are going to study media because the media is already there for the taking. And so all you need to do is study on how to report a news, report a case, a matter, anything, how to research, how to survey, how to do everything possible to ensure that you have the right content out there and you have the right communication going for you. Yeah. So that's the project. The project is to get more people to understand what it means to do podcasts and also get them to understand that as soon as you put finances in front of you when it comes to podcasting, you're going to lose out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot do podcasting if you're not passionate about it because it
That's
comes with a
true.
lot of ups and downs. First of all, you want to go to work and make some money.
And there are some days you want to break your phone because you've published you published a show. At the time it was great, but when you go back to listen to it, you want to piss on yourself, like, why did I put this out? I didn't know I sounded this disgusting. Oh my God.
No,
So
that
yes,
that that you just said right now. Whenever I put up a
yeah.
post and I don't get anybody listening to it, I bring it down. I don't. For some reason, I bring it down. I did it one.
Why?
I did it one day, and one of my team members told me, I said, "You know what? Today, leave that one there. Just leave it there. Let's see what happens." And yeah,
And what happened?
after a few hours, I said a lot of people have already listened to it. Like I said, okay. So for that reason, now when I put up something, I no longer bring it down that
Oh my
fast.
God.
I leave it out
Okay,
there.
yeah, I think a lot of people can actually sympathize with that thought that or the action that you just did because there are some times that when I put up my podcast and I shared it 1, 2, 3 days to people, nobody has listened. I'll be like, okay, let me just take this one down. And so if I'm uploading the next one, I think I'm starting afresh again. A new set to push. But I don't think it will show the journey of how you grew. Because if someone goes to your gallery, they should see the times where you had like 0 listeners and 8 listeners. And at some point in time, you will find out that those old shows you did become a new hit because of one trendy thing that's happened in the world or something. So,
No, I think that the
guys,
problem.
please don't delete your content, even if you're not confident about it. Just let it be.
I think the problem with what you're saying right now is the same thing you would sell to a trader who just started business. The truth is,
Hmm.
there are already people in the business, all right, and there are more people with more exposure than you have. So if you're thinking about starting small today, I don't think that's really the ideal move because starting small doesn't have to be intellectual. It has to be physical. But your mindset needs to be upgraded beyond what you're putting out in front of you. So if you have a proper report, like I realized that sending links to people is not working. It doesn't work.
People
People
ignore it. They just take it
people
as a busy.
people ignore your links, and that's why we still have to figure out a way to bring podcasting to social media straight up. If you go to my page right now, you would see a whole bit of audio spectrum of different reviews of my podcast. So when I do that, I refer you back to the main podcast because I know you go there to listen to the rest of it because yeah, I've given you a teaser with what is available to you on Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, everywhere. Okay.
So your
So
strategy is to use the visuals to drive the audio.
yeah, and that's basically how it's working magic. Okay, it's
Okay,
really
guys,
working.
let's see. Let's use CS Williams strategy for your podcast and see how you can use more visuals to drive the listeners of your podcast or radio, whichever one you have or the one you're trying to start. But from our guest today, he has just given us his candid advice. Don't go into online radio or any form of radio if you're going for the traditional or the online, don't go into it if you don't have the money, the time, and the patience to build your audience. But if you just want something on the fly, you can start a podcast and get talking. And if you have friends, bet them, buy them shawarma, they will listen to you. So even if it's just the food,
How
but
how
yeah.
many how many will you buy for them?
Okay, it's been a beautiful session with you, though he had network challenges in the beginning with our guest here. But thank you guys for joining in on today's show. And this is how far we can go today. And there is still a lot would love to talk to you about. So I'm looking forward to having another session with you because I have lots of questions which I can't ask you right now because of the time. So we'll look forward to having another session with you when we have that session. Definitely, we will both share those questions together because people wanted to know more about your project and how they can also be partner with it or how they can benefit from it. I suppose that's what that meant. So when next we have you on the show, we would like to go into all that details. But for now, thank you for sharing your sound beats of your passion with pod breaks. And yes, this is all we can do today. Thank you guys for joining in on the show. Final words.
Final words. If you just started, just build yourself around passion. Forget about money for now. Forget about anything you want to do with podcasting later on. just focus on the passion for podcasting, because that's the only thing that's going to drive you when you start going nuts.
I can imagine. Yes, so that is it from our guest today, and from me. I'm telling you, document your journey, the sweet side, the sour bits, the laughter, the tears. Lillian thought our guest cried, but he said he didn't cry. But we all know the true story.
Let me check.
So,
Let
but
me check right now.
document your journey, because when you get up there, you need something to show for it. And that is it from me, guys. You guys take care of yourself and have a beautiful weekend. Thank you, Bakare, for joining in. We're just running up the show now, so let me just give you a wave. Thank you, Williams, for joining on the show. So you guys have a great day, and don't forget to keep a smile on that beautiful, handsome face. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.